His excitement is halfway through, or part of the way through the job. I've got a problem with my handbrake, so no matter how hard I pull the cable, the handbrake isn't locking up the back disc. So obviously to get to this stage, you've got to remove the caliper and then the pad carrier. Now on this particular version of the Ceed, you have to take this control arm bolt out in order to get into there, to take the bolt out for the pad carrier. I'll do this on the other side when it comes to doing that. And then obviously this part comes off, and in here should be the shoes for the handbrake. On this particular model, the handbrake's operated here internally on the disc, and then the brakes obviously use the pads with the caliper. Now what was happening with mine was the operating lever, which goes through this brake plate and then comes out here and then connects to this cable. It's like a T-shape. Well, it was a solid T-shape, but it's supposed to move out and expand, and then expands the shoes. But mine wasn't doing that. It was absolutely rock solid. So today I've just received my pads and spring kit, but the job I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get a little Dremel, and I'm going to bring down the rust from these surfaces where the brake shoes rub against, I guess, just to make sure they're nice and smooth. But I honestly think the main problem I had was simply the operating lever, and I'm pretty sure if I left it like that it wouldn't really be a problem, but I might as well do the job properly while I'm here. I've actually noticed as well that the brake dust, the dust guard or whatever you call these things, they were getting a bit crispy, so I've put a bit of primer on here and I've put a bit of gloss black paint on it just to make it look a bit better. It probably looks terrible, but it's not as if it's a showpiece. It's just to try and keep the rust at bay. But my next step is to get a Dremel and use a little abrasion stone or a braiding stone, whatever you call it. Rub down the pads. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So that's my task now. So I'll give that a go and then see how we get on. Just done a bit of work with a Dremel there, or the Dremel tool, rotary tool, whatever you want to call it. So I've scrubbed up these pads. There is like a sort of spotted, almost looks like corrosion effect. You can maybe see the dots there. So anyway, I've done the 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the next thing to do is put some anti-seize compound on here. I don't know if it's alright to put just regular grease or not, but I'll certainly put Coppa slip on it. Might help. It'll stick probably better. And this is the I've got the spring kit. I was going to reuse my springs actually. So these are the shoes. Got these on eBay. The whole kit was 24 quid, or 24.95 or something. So let's just say £25. But the first thing I need to look at is putting the operating lever back through, and I'll explain what actually went wrong with my brakes to stop the lever, or to stop the brakes coming on properly or effectively. Planning on reusing the springs that were already in there, but I thought for the sake of roughly £10, and the amount of hassle it is to take all of this off, jack everything up, both sides, I think spending a £5 on each side is money well spent, and I don't need to worry about how rusty some of these components are, because I know that the ones I've got in the oil are not quite as in not quite such a good shape. But An oil bath for the last 3 or 4 days while I waited on these brake shoes. Seems to have done okay, but I'll take the operating lever out and show you how that works. This is what you call the operating lever, or what is known as the operating lever. And how that works is the top of the shoes. You know, you've obviously got the shoes going. This is obviously not checked which direction they're supposed to be. I've absolutely no idea. But we'll just say it's like that. And then they go in like that. And then what happens is when you pull the handbrake on, you can see here that expands. And then obviously that then pushes the shoes out and they push against the drum, or the internal part of the disc. Well, with mine, what was happening was it was absolutely seized solid like that. So when I pulled the handbrake cable on, it was just twisting it like that. So the shoes weren't going in and out or going out, they were just staying still. So the problem with this thing is, obviously it wasn't greased, or it wasn't sufficiently greased. And obviously after 8 years of Scottish weather and salt on the roads, you can see the condition it's in. It's pretty grubby looking. I'll actually give that a little bit of a go with a Dremel. But the main part is obviously the pivot point. So if you've got a problem when you've tried adjusting your handbrake, you can turn the little adjuster, which is in the oil bath again here. That's the adjuster there. This is the part that you flick through up or down to set the shoes. But if you find that you've set the shoes with that adjuster and then you've adjusted the handbrake and you're still not getting any joy with the brake, the chances are, I would say, this thing here is seized and it's just twisting. So I'd recommend that you look at the operating lever and see if it can move freely. And you can see this works fine, but I actually had to hammer this in order to get any movement, and then I basically put a screwdriver in, wiggled it about, tried to expand it, and then scrubbed it with a wire brush. So this, I think, is the source of all my problems as far as I'm concerned. This operating lever a little bit of a rub down. You can certainly see how much pitting has taken place there. But as I say, the main thing is that it moves. So I'm just going to clean this up, put a bit of brake cleaner on it. I'm just going to give it a quick spray with some black spray paint, just to try and keep the surface rust certainly off the darker part of the metal. It might not be any good, but I'll give it a go. Cleaned it up, I actually realised there's a circlip on there, so I could take this whole thing to bits, make sure it's all nice and clean, and then make sure this is all nicely rubbed down. So that's a lot easier. I didn't notice that at first, but now that it's clean, it's clear as day. So there's a tip for you. Once you get this thing out, if you can get the circlip, you should be able to strip it down completely and make a much better job of it. A liberal helping of Coppa clip, these pads. I've also put a little bit of paint onto the operating lever arm, which will go through here. I don't know if you can see that. This is not the best camera, but there is actually like a rubber grommet just in there. So that's presumably where most of the crap comes in. So I'm going to see about reassembling the operating arm now that I discovered how to take it to bits, and see how we get on from there. I've just put a little bit of cheap paint on there. You can see that better in the light, just to give it a little bit of protection. I don't know how effective that'll be, but it can't be any worse than it was. And then I'll give this a liberal coating of copper grease. And obviously I'll make sure this is all suitably coated in copper slip as well. Well, that's it reassembled. It doesn't feel as smooth as butter, obviously, but it's definitely vastly improved on what it was. Can't see any problem with that. But anyway, I'll put more copper slip over the exposed metal, and hopefully that'll be good enough. A bit of fiddling about, I've managed to get that through. Hopefully we can see it sticking out. Yeah, there's the hook there, obviously. So the hook's sticking through. Looks a right bloody mess down there anyway. Anyway, that's the hook sticking through, and I've bent the handbrake cable out the way there. So I can see when you push this through, that obviously goes through, and there's going to be 2 points of contact, one there and one at the other side, so obviously going to have to make sure that's cleaned up. So I think I'll just put the Dremel on that quickly, get a nice clean surface, and then I think that looks okay. But yeah, I'll put the Dremel on there, just give that a bit of a whiz there, and I think they look okay, but I'll maybe give that a go as well. So anyway, next point is whiz that down, and then apply some copper grease onto it. I can't see for the sun where the stop button is. That whizzed down and that whizzed down. I say I'm just using a little Dremel tool, just putting the sanding stone on it. Then I'm down, taking the surface rust off. It's amazing how much stuff there was on this side, how it was really built up. So plenty of copper slip on there, and hopefully that keeps the corrosion at bay. Moment of panic there, because I thought I had the wrong bloody shoes, but you actually have to take this adjuster base, or whatever you call it, the part that the brake shoe adjuster goes onto. You have to lever it off of here. Excuse me. So how easy that's going to be, I don't know, but mine was pretty solid. But anyway, I managed to knock it off by putting a screwdriver like that and then tapping it, and then it eventually came off, but it didn't just fall off. So this is the adjuster obviously that goes onto this. So if you get your shoes and you decide, oh, got the wrong ones, just make sure you take that thing off, which is the bit that goes into there like that, and it should be fine. One of the most fiddly things I've done is to put this spring in because there's a tendency for the shoe to fall down, everything else getting in the way, and generally being a pain in the fucking arse. So what I did was I actually used a bit of cloth and I jammed the pad, the shoe, in order to let me get my hand behind, put my finger on the little thingamajig that the spring goes onto, and do the quarter turn. But that was a pain in the arse, so I'll try and do the same thing on this side. Managed to get both the springs back on. This one's a real pain in the arse because you're doing it very much at an angle. I suppose it's the same with that as well, but I managed to get it in easier being right-handed, so that might have been part of the reason for that. If you've got an extra pair of hands that you can get the use of, I would certainly ask one of your friends to give you a hand, hold either the shoe and the back pin while you try and get that on, because doing it on your own, it's not fun. And this one, I mean, it didn't take me that long, probably took me 5 or 10 minutes farting about, but I mean, essentially it should take 5 seconds. But that's a pain in the arse, so be prepared for plenty of swearing and getting pissed off, I suppose, put it mildly. So my next thing is going to be to see about lining everything up here, and then obviously putting in the adjuster at the bottom end down there. And finally back together. So I started off putting the spring clip things in, and then once that was done, I put the adjuster wheel at the bottom and put the bottom spring on. That was pretty straightforward, just putting the springs on fine. Just make sure that this is aligned properly here, the spring. I found it went up towards the hub, but it seems to be fine now. And then the last part was putting this all together and making sure the top spring went on. And again, that was pretty straightforward. You might find that it'll catch there and doesn't go on quite how you want it, but you can easily enough just push through there with a screwdriver and it'll slip in. So I'm going to put a little bit more grease over that, but I think it's probably plenty. And then I'll give this a clean up with some brake cleaner, and I'll see about getting the new discs and pads out. Disc on. Obviously the thing now is to adjust here until it locks up and then let it off. So to do that, I'm going to use a screwdriver. So I'm going to put it all the way, I can't remember right down what it is, all the way down or all the way up until it's solid, and then go off a few clicks. That's that adjusted, so you put it all the way down until you can't move the hub, and then you just flick it back up, you know, a few clicks till you feel comfortable with it. So that one's okay. It can be kind of hard to find that even with a torch going in there, quite hard to see. But the thing that I've just found is if you get a screwdriver and you just put it in and then push the wheel, you see how it stops? Well, if you have the blade flat like that, turn it sideways and then it should actually be right on the teeth. You can also do it obviously from this side and bring it, and then you see it stops. Can't put it there, so the teeth are just there. But as a rough guide, you'll see this one down here, this little ridge. It's at roughly 6 o'clock, or just slightly offset from 6 o'clock. That's kind of where it is, but you can verify all that when you have it to bits and see where the little splines are, or the little teeth, and maybe make a mark or put a bit of paint or something so you know where it is for ease of adjustment at a future date. But the screwdriver thing is pretty straightforward that way, but I think you can see that kind of lines up with that point there. This is a totally ridiculous, unnecessary extra step. I have to undo this in order to replace the pad carrier. You can't get the pad carrier out because the bolt is actually in there, it goes in here, and you can't get it because of this stupid cross member. Why they've done that, I don't know. It's not like that on all the Ceed models, but it is on this particular one, and it's just a pain in the backside. What should be like a 5-minute job ends up being an extra 20 minutes or something, because this will be probably seized solid. So I've just got to undo this, punch it out, put the pad carrier back on. But before I do that, I'll give this a go over, clean it up. Slides, they are moving. That one's solid, so that one's needing a service, so there we go. But I'll take these out, clean them up, and put fresh grease in. Spending a bit of time cleaning up this pad carrier. I've undone the bolt here that holds this cross member in, and that allows me to get access to fit the pad carrier. So that goes on like that, and then the bolt goes through there. Then you can put that back in. Complete and utter exercise in futility, that, if you ask me, but that's what they did. So pads in next and caliper back on. can see why you need to take that cross member out. I say I have no idea what the logic behind this system is, but in my opinion it's totally unnecessary. I've just got to do up this one now, and that should be the pad carrier on fine. I'll need to push back the piston, I'm sure, on the caliper. I've put copper slip, by the way, on all of these bolts, and the next thing now is to realign that and then put this bolt back in. Well, I've taken the shims out, they've cleaned up underneath the shims. I've cleaned the shims, put copper slip on them, and I've also pushed back the piston. I'm going to put some copper slip on that as well. The next thing obviously is to bolt it together. So this is back in place. This is just, I say, this adds an awful lot of extra time, and it's not very good access from here. So be prepared to punch that out and punch it back in again. But these are looking okay, so I'll just put an extra bit of copper slip on each bit of these lugs and get the caliper back on. Hopefully that's going to be okay. That's that done. It took far longer than I wanted it to take, but I'm going to put the wheel back on and take the car for a run, and then perhaps tomorrow I'll do the other side of the car. Can't wait, but hopefully it'll take me less time now that I know what I'm doing, or think I know what I'm doing. So there we have it for now. And another COVID lockdown, or even COVID-19 lockdown day of excitement. So I'm now on the rear passenger side brake. It's exactly the same problem. As you can see, I don't know how good this camera is, but that is completely solid. There's no movement at all. The problem I'm encountering at the moment is trying to get the cable off at the back here, because when that doesn't move, the hook is like that, and you need to kind of get it like that to get the handbrake cable off. So on this side I seem to have a bit more difficulty getting the spring off, but all I did was I put the screwdriver down behind it and tapped it, and eventually it went down far enough to pop it out. So there's the spring, still okay, but I'm going to put the new ones in. The dust cover looks a bit better on this side. And one thing I'll say, when you take this cross member off on the left hand side on my car, I don't know about anybody else's, but on my car it's a lot easier to get that bolt out. There seems to be more, it just seems to be more space here. I don't know if that's a quirk of the different sizes of the cars or not, but my next task, as I say, is to get this out and take this to bits and clean it up. So I've noticed on this side though is that the adjuster, it wasn't actually welded onto this one. It just actually fell off complete. So there's obviously a difference in rust on the left side to the right side for some reason. Not sure what that would be, but anyway, I didn't have to knock this off the shoe, so that's one less task to do today. But I'm still struggling with this thing. I'm just taking that out so I can get maybe a better angle to see if I can get that cable off. I'll see if I can get a torch onto it to show better. And the clips have all come off. Another thing I've noticed, the pins as well for the spring clips, they're in much better condition than on the other side. They were pretty well rusted away, so I'll keep these for spares, but I'm not intending to use them anytime soon. On this side, it wasn't completely seized. So what I did was, this is how it worked for me. I can't say it'll definitely work for you, but I held on to this bit and I pulled and I pulled and I pulled, and you can see, if you get that against there, there's a slight bit of movement. I mean, it's not going back into shape, but there is a slight bit of movement. You'll see if you look, you'll see the light coloured rust. The dark coloured rust was the shape of this bit. It's moved enough, and that's given me enough space at the back here to get this off. So now it's a case of trying to figure out how the hell to get this out, because as you can see, it's not really enough space, so maybe I'll have to push it back into line and then get it out. But no, I'll need two hands to do it. So this is a fiddly bit. You've got to get this out, and then it's stuck on at the back through the grommet, so that kind of gives you something else to think about. You don't want to damage the grommet either. So got to think about getting that out, which I will do, but it will take two hands. Well, that's it. It's out. I basically tried to put it back to a sort of more T-shaped orientation, upside down T, and then you get one of these bits into one of these holes, which gives you an extra bit of space, and then just pull. So my next step now, hopefully you can see, it's hard to see with the sunlight here. My next step now is obviously going to clean up this circlip. Again, it's very difficult for me to see with the bright sunlight here, but I'm going to get this circlip cleaned up, take everything apart, and I'm going to get that little Dremel tool. You can certainly see how crusty and rusty looking that is. It doesn't look too good, but this is something that probably needs to be done every 2 or 3 years to stop the rust setting in and the problem showing itself in the first place. But it's not the easiest thing to do unless you've got plenty of spare time in your hands. So if there's ever pandemics, it's the ideal time to do this task if you haven't done it already. So let's see if we're getting that wire brushed and cleaned up, taken to bits. This is what the fun looks like here. Plenty of crap lying about, so I'm totally organised, as you can see. That's always how you should maintain your tools. Have everything organised and readily accessible. Once you've got used to this, so I've done a quick rub down. I need to obviously reshape that circlip. The last time I did this, I had this soaking in oil overnight, which I think helped. So as you can see, it's all pretty corroded. I'm now going to take the Dremel tool. Dremel tool's here, and I've got this sort of cone-shaped attachment on it, which is starting to get fairly worn, but hopefully I've got enough left on it to get these cleaned up. At last, it's all back together. Very liberal coating of Coppa slip on there. For me, the most difficult things are getting this operating lever back in. It's not that difficult, it's just fiddly. And then if you're just doing it on your own, getting these quarter turn lock washer things on. I did find the springs on this side were a lot harder to put on, but that's all pretty much back together. Now's the case of putting the new disc on and adjusting the brake. That's everything reassembled. I wasn't going to bother going through every single step of cleaning up the brakes and all the rest and adjusting the ears and the pads. But suffice to say, everything is now reassembled. I've adjusted this, turned it all the way down. Just remember, on this one it's the opposite. It's the same, but it's on the opposite side. On the other side it's here, but it faces the front. Adjust that, and then the next thing to do is put the wheel on, and then it's going to be a case of adjusting the cable. Hopefully that all works. If it's not, I'll just be screaming. As a proof of the put-in, if I get my fingers underneath, there's maybe about 1 millimetre of thread on at the back. Let's just twiddle it off. Let's see. I actually had the handbrake on very slightly. So I think you could say that's slack. Maybe there's a tiny bit of tension on it, but it's pretty wiggly. And let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's at 6 at the moment. So let's see what it goes like. COVID-19 hand wash. So the handbrake is on. Let's see, into gear. That's definitely, that's definitely working. Put it off, put it on, off, on. I think it's definitely going to need a bit of bedding in, but it's definitely working. So I'll turn it off. I'll give that a wee nip up, and I'll take it for a little drive, but I need to put my tools away first.